The National Desk, America's News Now.
Holiday gun violence strikes again and again as the nation remembers last year's July 4th shooting.
We passed the most significant bipartisan gun safety legislation in 30 years, but it's not nearly enough.
Then a white powder found over the weekend at the White House has been identified. What is it and what happens next? And Twitter faces its biggest threat yet, how one social media company looks to take down the blue bird. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Eugene Ramirez. And developing now, we have learned the name of the 40-year-old suspect in custody from last night's deadly shooting in Philadelphia. Kim Brady Carricker surrendered to police while wearing a bulletproof vest with an AR-15 style rifle. Police say at least 50 shots were fired, leaving 5 men ages 15 to 59 dead and 2 children ages 2 and 13 wounded but in stable condition. No apparent motive has been found for the shooting. Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw saying that there's no reason to believe there are additional suspects or an additional threat to the community at this time. No charges have been filed just yet, but Philadelphia District Attorney saying today that Carricker will face multiple murder charges among other felonies when arraigned in court tomorrow.
Bail will be set at held without bail. In other words, this is a person who is never going to leave jail before the trial, and it is my expectation is never going to leave jail, period.
Police have still not arrested anyone after a mass shooting in Fort Worth, Texas, that left at least 3 people dead and 8 others hurt. Police say those injured are at hospitals, but their conditions have not been released. And this happened late last night at a parking lot where there was a big crowd gathering. Police don't know whether it was related to a gang conflict or some sort of domestic dispute. President Biden speaking out on the recent string of gun violence when speaking to the country's largest teachers union in his July 4th speech.
Congress needs to step up. Pass common sense gun safety laws to protect our kids and educators. And by the way, arming teachers is not the answer. Arming teachers is not the answer.
President Biden has called on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban, but the Republican majority in the House opposes such a ban, arguing that it could violate Americans' Second Amendment rights. Some Republicans have supported increasing security in schools by deploying armed officers. Meanwhile, officials still investigating a mass shooting at a Baltimore block party early Sunday that left an 18-year-old woman and a 20-year-old man dead and 28 people wounded. Police are searching for at least 2 suspects who may have used 3 weapons. As the residents of Baltimore are still coming to terms with this tragedy, Maryland Governor Wes Moore visited with victims today.
I just spent the past 4 hours with the folks who are in shock trauma, with people like Theo, with people like Aisha, and with people like Joy. That's where I was for the past 4 hours, and I'm proud to be here with the community. We've been working directly with local law enforcement and working directly with local leaders to make sure that when we get here, that our presence can be additive, that we know that we don't want to be a distraction, but we're going to be actually do the work with the people on the ground. The people on the work have seen us. They continue to appreciate the work that we're doing, and I'm proud to be here with the people doing the work.
And we're looking at weather for this evening. More than 7 million people may have severe thunderstorms cancel their fireworks plans. In the middle of the country at highest risk right now, mainly areas from the southern Rockies up to the upper Midwest. Those in eastern Colorado, northern Kansas, and southern Nebraska should be looking out for some strong wind and hail. On this 4th of July, the percentage of people who say they are proud to be an American right now is nearing historic lows. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins joins us now from Washington with more.
As we celebrate this Independence Day.
Happy 4th of July!
Only around 4 in 10 adults say they're extremely proud to be an American.
I feel like it's declined. Like, just wearing the flag sometimes I feel like is sometimes a little bit mixed up feelings, you know?
Another sign patriotism continues to slip.
Things are really politicized now.
According to Gallup, Republicans are consistently more likely than Democrats and independents to express extreme pride. But Democrats making a push to reclaim the flag.
A symbol of all that we hold most dear as Americans.
Joe Biden's first re-election campaign ad dripping with patriotic imagery.
Freedom.
Since 2019, Democrats' pride increasing slightly as Republicans dips by 16 points. Defining what a patriot is growing increasingly complicated.
How would you define a patriot? That's a good question. I think people are trying to answer it right now, aren't they?
The term taking on different meanings from person to person.
Be proud of where you're from. It may be hard sometimes, but always be proud.
And group to group.
Somebody that's giving of themselves for their country, whether it's a teacher, a social worker.
I think it's a mixture of both, supporting your community and supporting your country.
In another poll, 41% answered incorrectly when asked what the 4th of July commemorates, which is the ratification of the Declaration of Independence by the Continental Congress. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
And the Secret Service investigating a white powder found inside the White House Sunday that a preliminary field test identified as cocaine. The Associated Press reporting it was found in a common area of the West Wing. The discovery prompted a brief evacuation. The first family, by the way, was not there. The first family was at Camp David at the time. Authorities are now investigating how that powder got into the White House. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is asking President Biden to make a disaster declaration months after that East Palestine train derailment that caused hazardous chemicals to be released. DeWine says the declaration would ensure continued government assistance and help to the community. He says he's concerned the train company will stop helping while future costs haven't been figured out just yet. Well, this one's the literal definition of stuck in the mud. A 31-year-old Massachusetts woman has been rescued after she went missing for 8 days, 3 of which, at least 3, she was stuck in mud in a state park. The woman is now recovering from serious but not life-threatening injuries. A veteran, Peter Nino, traveled to D.C. this holiday searching for an old friend. The National Desk, Stacey Naquin, reports from the Vietnam Veterans Memorial.
Can I ask you, who are you looking for today?
Well, I was looking for a friend of mine that I grew up together from kindergarten up to high school and college. His name was Jose Ramos. It's got a lot of history here. Squad members that passed on, on a firefight that I was involved with, and I was the only person that lived out of the whole ordeal.
Coming to his war memorial for the first time, Army veteran Peter Nino is also honored. A pin and challenge coin on behalf of a grateful nation. Mission 123 for Honor Flight Columbus has surrounded him with veterans in our nation's capital, looking to pay their respects to those who never made it home.
These were our brothers in arms, men that gave their lives, sacrificed their lives, but they came and fought for our country, the United States of America, which is the best country in the world.
Finally, Peter Nino finds his friend.
He and I grew up together. We went to school together, went to kindergarten together.
So what we're going to do is he is right here.
Yes.
Beth Johnson with Honor Flight Columbus helping to make an etching.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you are so welcome.
Appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
You came here today looking for this name. What does it mean to you to find it and put your hand on that name?
I can't express any words. It's closure for me because it's been like 50 years since this happened, so I really appreciate that.
Well, Stacey Naquin reporting. Toyota claiming a big step forward for electric vehicles, saying the weight, size, and cost of EV batteries can be cut in half with the company's technology breakthrough. Toyota saying that it has simplified production of the material used to make solid-state batteries. The company expects to start making these batteries for electric cars as early as 2027. Coming up on the National Desk, Japan wants to dump radioactive waste into the sea. We'll tell you who's for the plan and who's against it. And then consolidating your stream is tempting, but at what cost? The new research that may have you questioning your next move. And half-price gas, where you can go before the end of the day to get a great deal. We'll be right back. It has now been 1 year since a shooter opened fire on Independence Day parade goers in the Chicago suburb of Highland Park, killing 7 and injuring dozens. Well, today, the community gathered in front of City Hall there to honor and remember the victims and reclaim the space where the massacre happened. There was a remembrance ceremony and a moment of silence at 10:14 a.m. That's when police say that first shot was fired. Thousands took part in a community walk instead of a parade this year. The alleged gunman, 22-year-old Robert Cremo III, awaits trial after being indicted on 117 felony charges. A woman is dead and 9 others injured after a fireworks explosion at a home in Michigan last night. Several people remain in the hospital with critical injuries. Nearby houses and cars were also damaged. We don't know yet if the explosion was caused by a manufacturing defect or user error. Happening today, firefighters still working to contain the Tunnel 5 fire in southwestern Washington, now covering more than 500 acres. Now, this started Sunday morning in a small town in Skamania County near Oregon. Hundreds were asked to evacuate. The nearby areas are still under a red flag warning from the National Weather Service. And today, the UN gave the green light to Japan to release treated radioactive wastewater from the damaged Fukushima nuclear plant into the sea. The UN's nuclear agency says it meets international standards and poses almost no environmental or health risks. Some groups in South Korea, China, and some Pacific Island nations, however, oppose the plan. Israeli defense forces began withdrawing their troops after a second day of offensive strikes into the West Bank city of Jenin in an effort to root out terrorist cells. So far, at least 12 people have been killed, with more than 100 injuries reported. Although Israel claims to have killed no civilians, at least 120 individuals have been detained and hundreds of weapons and explosives were confiscated. Meanwhile, Hamas retaliated in Tel Aviv with what Israeli officials are calling a terrorist attack. 8 people were injured when a car rammed into pedestrians at a shopping center, and then the driver got out of that car and stabbed civilians. The driver was killed by an armed Israeli citizen. NATO announcing today that Secretary General will stay on for another year. Jens Stoltenberg has been in that role since 2014. His term was set to expire last year, but it was extended for the 4th time after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. President Biden applauding the announcement, saying, quote, "With his steady leadership, experience, and judgment, Secretary General Stoltenberg has brought our alliance through the most significant challenges in European security since World War II. Today, our alliance is stronger, more united, and purposeful than it has ever been." Today, a spokesperson for the Russian government hinting at a potential prisoner swap involving jailed American journalist Evan Gershkovich, who you see here. In a conference call with reporters, the spokesman said Moscow and Washington have touched on the issue, but he said those kinds of discussions should not be public. Gershkovich has been held in a Russian prison since March on espionage charges that he denies. A new warning tonight about your dollars and your data. So-called digital pirates are hoping you will come straight to them as you may be looking to consolidate your online streaming options. Here's national correspondent Christine Frizzau with some alarming new findings.
The recent change in policy by streaming service Netflix that only those in the same household can use an account has sent users scrambling. And while Netflix has seen a major spike in subscriptions, others will choose a different route, logging on or signing up for what's known as a piracy streaming site.
We live in a golden age of entertainment where we have so many choices when it comes to TV shows and movies. Piracy operators know that, and so they're using the lure of free content to convince us to visit their sites.
But it turns out it's not really free. The free and low-cost sites that let you watch your favorite shows from Netflix, Hulu, HBO, and Apple TV.
I think that's what it's all about, embracing change.
Often steal your info and your money, according to new research from the watchdog group Digital Citizens Alliance, which found 72% of those whose credit card had been breached reported using it for a piracy subscription. Just 18% said they had not. The group also found out firsthand.
We acquired a brand new credit card, so pristine, not used for anything else, and we signed up for 20 piracy sites that took credit cards. We then waited.
Executive Director Tom Galvin says within 3 months, there were $1,500 in illicit purchases, purportedly for grocery delivery, women's apparel, computer software, and more, originating from countries like China and Lithuania. Meanwhile, the groups behind the sites are cashing in, raking in more than $2 billion, both from advertising revenue and the low-cost subscriptions, plus those credit card purchases, and in many cases, being paid by hackers to install malware on people's computers. The warnings come despite a law passed by Congress in 2020 called the Protecting Lawful Streaming Act. While it significantly increases criminal penalties for those who illegally stream copyrighted material for financial gain, critics say it needs to be far more aggressively enforced. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
New data shows the Supreme Court's decision on student loans could have a broad impact on the economy. Loan payments will resume this October, meaning that many borrowers will be cutting back on their spending. Deutsche Bank analysts estimate consumer spending could drop by $14 billion per month. The spending changes won't necessarily have a huge impact, but they fear it could create more uncertainty in the U.S. economy. Instagram wants to give Twitter a run for its money. The Meta-owned platform launching a rival app called Threads as early as this Thursday. The company describes it as Instagram's text-based conversation app. Now, this comes as Twitter has faced a lot of criticism since Elon Musk bought the company last year. The latest being his recent announcement that Twitter will start limiting the number of tweets that users can read per day. A new report shows the states where Americans are more likely to smoke and smoke more than the rest of the country. The nonprofit Truth Initiative says 12 states have about a 50% higher rate of smoking, a typical smoker going through about 53 packs a year compared to 29 packs in the rest of the United States. Truth Initiative says local policies are the main factors. 4 migrants are dead after drowning in the Rio Grande River along the U.S.-Mexico border. This happened within a 48-hour span, and we know an infant is among the dead who have yet to be publicly identified. 2 other migrants were rescued from the river and turned over to U.S. Border Patrol. Crossing that river is a common but dangerous route for migrants trying to get from Mexico into the United States. The National Desk taking the pulse of America, and we start in Ohio, where a young man is speaking out about getting shot.
When you open your door and step out onto the sidewalk, what's going through your mind?
I could get shot again, or I might get arrested.
Probably not what you think about when you step outside your front door, but life is different for now 18-year-old Tajay Fallings. It was February 23rd, about 3:30 in the afternoon. Tajay skipped school and went with his little brother and some friends to hang out in Bond Hill. Another group of young men approached and opened fire.
I seen that I got shot. I'm like, oh, snap, I got shot. It was a big pile of blood.
Immediately after getting out of the hospital, there were 2 ways Tajay could have gone. He considered one way, getting a gun. Instead, he says he avoided the people that were leading him in the wrong direction and surrounded himself with those who, as he puts it, brought him into the light.
Heading into the July 4th holiday, you can expect a heightened increase in Department of Public Safety presence around Austin. Part of that is just normal holiday fanfare. Much of it, though, is the return to DPS's controversial partnership with Austin Police.
The city was looking for a way to address, certain, law and order and enforcement problems that it wasn't able to do on its own.
That partnership stretches back to late March when it began. About a month later, allegations arose of racial disparities in arrests, as more black and brown people were detained than average, demographically speaking. On May 13th, the partnership went on a break as DPS troopers were sent to the southern border to address the ending of Title 42, only to resume this past Sunday after a month and a half away. In a statement, Mayor Kirk Watson called the partnership vital, writing the initial DPS deployment helped reduce violent crime, lower response times, and give our officers a little more time to engage with the communities they serve. Last week, the city's Human Rights Commission reportedly unanimously passed a resolution calling on the city council to vote on whether or not to continue the partnership.
Visitors from near and far are finding it can take hours just to get past the gates to Yosemite. Expect bumper-to-bumper traffic all the way to the valley floor. Remember, parking is very limited. The water features in the park are a big draw this year. Visitors have to leave home early to beat the crowd and enjoy the experience.
Still to come here on the National Desk, a Major League Baseball player sharing how his faith helps him on and off the field. We're back in 90 seconds. Major League Baseball is stepping up to the plate to help player performance with a special emphasis on mental health. As medical reporter Liz Bonas explains, for one player, that means a focus on faith.
For Cincinnati Reds player Jake Fraley, a physical skill set is critical to peak performance. But when it comes to keeping his head in the game,
you need that mental skill set, so you need to learn exercises and drills that allow you to be able to be in the best position that you can be in from a mental state at all times.
But lately, with the help of Becky Schneckenberg, the team manager of wellness and education who coordinates the team's mental health program,
we really try to just normalize talking about things.
Fraley has started talking about what helps keep him mentally strong. You might call it a leap of faith.
Yeah, I spend time with Jesus through every morning. My mornings are his.
That shifts his focus, Fraley says, to what Sean Pender, the Reds' vice president of player development, says is the focus of any major league team.
Look, at the end of the day, we're about improving young men, not just baseball players.
It's changed who I am as not only as a baseball player that you guys see on a night-to-night basis, with the Reds, but it's changed who I am as a father and as a husband, as a son.
Fraley says there's a freedom that comes with facing your fears.
After getting kind of hit a few times with some injuries that are not, out of my control, still have to deal with them. On top of trying to perform and kind of make a name and establish myself here in this game, in the big leagues, it just kind of tumbled into this big ball of mess that I didn't know how to deal with. And so, for me, it was trying to get to a point where I was like accepting of, okay, I need help.
So in addition to accepting help from personal trainers and team counselors, all trained
to help the young men, become the best players they can become.
Fraley says that help from above has given him an attitude of gratitude.
I write down 3 gratitudes every morning when I wake up. And you'd be amazed at how that rewires your brain to find the positive and the good things that are going for in your life. When you can get yourself outside of yourself and your circumstances, you can be that servant, you can be that discipleship, to share the good news of Jesus Christ and allow myself to be in a place of gratitude. I'm just setting myself up to be in the best place possible for what I need to accomplish throughout that day, regardless of what happens to me.
At Great American Ballpark, I'm medical reporter Liz Bonas reporting.
Coming up here on the National Desk, where you can get half-price gas for the rest of the day. We're back in just 90 seconds. Sheetz is honoring the year 1776 today by offering gas for just $1.776 per gallon. This deal lasting all day or until the gas runs out. The company's CEO says he hopes the discount helps customers save money as they travel on the 4th of July holiday. Sheetz has more than 675 locations across 6 states. Fireworks started over 12,000 fires in the U.S. in 2021 and caused $59 million in property damage. That's according to the latest data from the National Fire Protection Association. And listen to this. While homeowners or renters insurance may cover fireworks damage, there could be some possible exceptions. Some policies may deny claims for illegal fireworks. Watch out. And Joey Jaws Chestnut held his title yet again, winning his 16th Nathan's Famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest. Chestnut downing 62 dogs and buns in just 10 minutes. His closest competitor could only stomach 49. In the women's competition, you see her here, reigning champion Miko Sudo, who has never lost the competition, ate 39 and half hot dogs, winning for the 9th time. That's going to do it for us right now. Don't forget to join me tonight for the evening edition of the National Desk. We'll be looking at some new data from Pew Research on whether Americans think gun ownership does more to increase or decrease gun safety. Check your local listings for the evening edition of the National Desk tonight. I'm Eugene Ramirez. Thanks for watching. See you soon.